I apologize for all that. There's a lot of construction going on in my neighborhood, and they're redoing the sidewalks, and there's some new houses going in over there, so there's a lot of banging around. Hopefully the sound quality is good. All right, Sutra 28. Tad japas, tad artha bhāvanā. Its constant repetition of its meaning, dwelling upon in mind, realizing meditation. Its constant repetition and meditation on its meaning. How can the power of a mantra like the pranava be developed? For it has to be remembered that this power is potential, not active. It has to be put into practice to become active. It is the power of a seed, which needs to be developed gradually by providing certain essential conditions, not the power of an electric motor, which is available on merely pressing a button. This is a fact frequently lost sight of by many people. They think that by merely repeating a mantra a few times, they can obtain the desired result. They cannot. A mantra can no more give in this way the result for which it is devised than a seed of a mango tree can satisfy a man who is hungry. The seed must be sown, watered, and the tender plant tended for years before it can bear fruit and satisfy the hungry. In the same way, the potential power which resides in a mantra must be developed slowly by the application of the right methods before it can become available for the spiritual advancement of the sadhaka. The process generally takes years of the most strenuous and one-pointed discipline and practice, and even then, the sadhaka may not be quite successful if he has not provided the right conditions. The higher the object of the mantra, the more difficult and prolonged the process of unfolding the power which is latent in it. The two principal means of developing the power which is latent in pranava, which are equally applicable to other similar mantras, are given in the sutra we are considering, which is this one. Its constant repetition and meditation on its meaning. The first means is japa. This is a well-known technique of mantra yoga in which the mantra is repeated again and again, first audibly, then silently, and lastly, mentally, in a prescribed manner until the desired results begin to appear. The repetition of the mantra is necessary, and sometimes the sadhakas are required to repeat it at such an enormous number of times that it becomes a test of their patience and endurance. But, though generally this number is great, the number by itself is not the most important factor. The other conditions, mental and emotional, are equally important. Japa begins in a mechanical repetition, but it should pass by stages into a form of meditation and unfoldment of the deeper layers of consciousness. The efficacy of japa is based upon the fact that every jivatma is a microcosm, thus having within himself the potentialities of developing all states of consciousness and all powers which are present in the active form in the macrocosm. All the forces which can help this divine spark within each human heart to become a roaring fire are to be applied. And the unfoldment of consciousness takes place as a result of the combined action of all these forces rather than the mere repetition of the mantra. Still, the mantra must be there to integrate and polarize these forces, as the tiny seed must be there to utilize the soil, water, air, and sunshine in the development of the tree. It is not possible to deal here with the modus operandi of japa and the manner in which it arouses the potentialities of the microcosmic jivatma. It may be merely pointed out that its potency depends upon its capacity to arouse subtle vibrations within the vehicle which it affects. A mantra is a sound combination and thus represents a physical vibration which is perceptible to the physical ear. But this physical vibration is its outermost expression, and hidden behind the physical vibration and connected with it are the subtler vibrations, much in the same way as the dense physical body of man is his outermost expression and is connected with his subtler vehicles. These different aspects of vak, or speech, are called vaikhari, madhyamā, paśyantī, and parā. Vaikhari is the audible sound which can lead through the intermediate stages to the subtlest form of parā vak. It is really through the agency of these subtler forms of sound that the unfoldment of consciousness takes place and the hidden potentialities become active powers. This release of powers takes a definite course according to the specific nature of the mantra. Just as a seed grows into a tree, but into a particular kind of tree, according to the nature of the seed. Okay. I thought I skipped a page, that kind of seemed a little disjointed. The other means of utilizing the power which is latent in pranava is bhāvanā. This word literally means dwelling upon in mind, bhāvanā. Pranava is bhāvanā. Yeah, so I think of bhāvanā as not dwelling upon in mind, but dwelling upon the feeling, right? Dwelling upon the emotion. Because for me, bhava is a mood or a feeling. But like I said before, and many times before, I'm not an expert in Sanskrit, so he's probably right. This word literally means dwelling upon in mind. Let us try to understand its significance in the present context. The object of the dual practice described in this sutra is to contact the divine consciousness of Ishvara. The japa has the effect of attuning the vehicles, but something more is necessary in order to bring down the divine influence and establish contact with the divine consciousness. If an electric current is to flow into a mechanism, we need not only conductance or capacity to transmit the current, but also voltage, pressure to make the current flow. In the same way, in order to make it possible for the individual consciousness to draw nearer to the divine consciousness, we need not only attunement of the vehicles, but a drawing force and attraction which corresponds to voltage in the flow of the electric current. This force, which draws together the two, the jivatma and the paramatma, may take different forms. In bhakti yoga, for example, this is so great, it takes the form of intense devotion or love. That's the drawing force, right? You're being pulled forward through your heart. In mantra yoga, it takes the form of bhāvanā, or intense meditation on the significance of the mantra and the object which is sought to be gained. So they're talking about dwelling on it in your mind. Yeah, that makes sense. This bhāvanā is not merely an intellectual process like the one we employ in finding the solution of a mathematical problem. It is a joint action of all our faculties in the pursuit of a common goal. So that not only the spirit of intellectual inquiry is there, but also the deep yearning of the lover who wants to find the beloved, and the will of the hatha yogi who wants to break through all the barriers which separate him from the object of his search. This kind of bhāvanā polarizes all our powers and faculties and produces the necessary concentration of purpose. So it's kind of like passionate desire is what he's talking about, right? Thus, gradually the distractions which take the mind of the aspirant away from the object of his search are removed, and he's able to turn his attention inward, right? So we're talking about this one-pointed focus. So however you're able to attain that one-pointed focus, do that, right? and get rid of all the distractions. All right. Now we're at number 29. So we're going to read 29. Tata pratyak chetana digamo pya. Tata pratyak chetana digamo pya. I don't know. Digamo pi. Antaraya bhavascha. All right. I'm butchering the Sanskrit. From it, this practice of interned in the opposite direction, consciousness, attainment, also of hindrances, obstacles, absence, disappearance, and from it results the disappearance of obstacles and turning inward of consciousness. So, I guess this is the result of the mantra japa, right? In this sutra, Patanjali has given the two results which ensue from the practice prescribed in the previous sutra. First, the awakening of a new kind of consciousness which is called pratyak chetana. And second, the gradual disappearance of the obstacles. Let us first try to understand what is meant by pratyak chetana. There are two kinds of consciousness of diametrically opposite nature, pratyak and parā, or inward turned and outward turned. If we study the mind of the ordinary individual, we shall find that it is entirely outward turned. It is immersed in the outer world and is occupied all the time with the procession of images which pass continuously in the field of consciousness. This outward turned consciousness is caused by vikṣepa, the projection outward of the lower mind of what is present within it at the center. As we shall deal with the question of vikṣepa fully in discussing the next sutra, let us leave it here and try to understand what pratyak chetana is. As has been pointed out above, pratyak chetana is the inward turned consciousness, or consciousness directed toward its center. It is thus the exact opposite of the outward turned, or parā chetana, as illustrated in the following figures. I'll put this up on the screen. So you're either turned in toward the center or looking out at everything around. The whole aim and process of yoga consists in withdrawing the consciousness from without to within, for the ultimate mystery of life is hidden in the very heart or center of our being and can be found only there and nowhere else. In the case of the yogi, the tendency of the lower mind to run outwards and to keep itself busy with the objects of the outer world must therefore be replaced gradually by a tendency to return automatically to its centered condition without effort. It is only under these conditions that it can be joined, as it were, with the higher principles. But it may be pointed out that this mere tendency to be pointed toward the center is not pratyak chetana, although it is a necessary stage in its attainment. It is the actual contact with the higher principles resulting in the irradiation of the personality by the influence of these higher principles, atma buddhi manas, which is the essence of pratyak chetana. So let me read that again, because this is really important. It's not just about keeping your focus inside, it's about allowing that inward turned focus to be transmuted, basically is what he's saying. So it is the actual contact with the higher principles resulting in the irradiation of the personality by the influence of these higher principles, atma buddhi manas, which is the essence of pratyak chetana. Okay? The contact is no doubt indirect, but it is sufficiently effective and real to enable the personality to derive from it many advantages. It changes you. It changes you. The strength of the Atma, the illumination of Buddhi, and the knowledge of the higher mind gradually filter down into the personality in an ever-increasing measure and provide the necessary guidance and momentum for treading the path of yoga. Thank God, right? The contact becomes direct only in samadhi, when consciousness leaves one vehicle after another and becomes centered at deeper and deeper levels. The other result of japa and meditation on pranava is the gradual disappearance of the obstacles which lie in the path of the yogi. These obstacles are of various kinds: impurities and disharmonies in the vehicles, weaknesses of character, lack of development, etc. But pranava, as we have seen, touches the very heart of our being, arouses in the microcosm vibrations which can bring out from it all the latent powers and faculties which lie sleeping there. So all obstacles, whatever their nature, yield to its dynamic stimulation. So all obstacles, whatever their nature, yield to its dynamic stimulation. The deficiencies are made up by the growth of the corresponding faculties or the flow of additional power. The impurities are washed away. The disharmonies in the vehicles are smoothed out, and the vehicles become attuned to one another and to the supreme consciousness of Ishvara. And so a complete regeneration of the individuality takes place, a regeneration which makes it fit to tread the path of Ashtanga Yoga or Ishvara Pranadhana. It is obvious that an instrument so effective and powerful in its action cannot be used in a haphazard and careless manner without involving the sadhaka in all kinds of difficulties and dangers. Use the mantra well. A careful consideration of the necessary conditions and their strict regulation is therefore absolutely necessary. This is not the place to deal with these conditions in detail. It is enough to point out that purity, self-control, and a very cautious and gradual use of the power are some of the essential conditions. So the practice can be taken up usefully and safely only after yama and niyama have been mastered to a considerable extent. The 7 sutras from 23 to 29 form in a way a separate set giving the technique of the path of mysticism on which the aspirant goes direct to his goal without studying and mastering the intermediate planes which separate him from the object of his search. On this path, self-surrender is the only weapon, and in using this weapon, japa and meditation on pranava constitute the sole technique. I'm going to read that again. On this path, self-surrender is the only weapon, and in using this weapon, japa and meditation on pranava constitute the sole technique. The japa and meditation turn the consciousness of the inspirant right about in the direction of his goal, remove all the obstacles, and then self-surrender does the rest. So wonderful, isn't it? I just love this. All right, so the next one is 30. So I'm going to stop here for today. It's a long one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I'll have to practice it before I read it, otherwise I'll totally butcher it. Disease, languor, doubt, carelessness, laziness, worldly mindedness, delusion, non-achievement of a stage, instability. These 9 cause the distraction of the mind, and they are obstacles. All right. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time. Bye.